Hello and welcome to a different kind of video, actually. I could have made 3 movie review videos out of this, but I thought I'd just do a fairly brief recap and summary of a kind of little marathon I did in the cinema yesterday. Don't know whenever I'll post this video, but regardless, for me, as I'm recording this, it was yesterday. Went to the cinema and saw 3 movies, and I realized as we were setting off to go into town, they were all remakes. Kind of, essentially. One of them's a reboot, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it's kind of a remake marathon in the cinema, and those films were Dumbo, Hellboy, and Pet Sematary. So Connie had no interest at all in Dumbo, so she sat in a cafe and painted for a couple of hours. She was no interest in that whatsoever at all. Very aggressive. So I went to see Dumbo, the Tim Burton live action reimagining of the 30s. Is it 30s? Or I think I came at 41 perhaps. The classic Disney film, which I've talked about before. Not one I grew up with a lot because I didn't own it on VHS, but I saw it when I was really young, and so when I revisited it on Blu-ray like maybe 7 or 8 years ago, it was like watching a film that I'd seen when I had a concussion. Like, it was like, I remember this, but it seems so new. Really, really strange, but it's a marvelous film, Dumbo. So I was intrigued to see the live-action version. I like Tim Burton a lot, even though people seem to be fairly down on him at the minute. And I really enjoyed it. I loved it, actually. It's not a great film, but it's a really good one. And, you know, yeah, they focus a lot on the humans, which is like, it's not really about the humans, is it? It's about Dumbo, it's about the animals. But, you know, I like that they did that. It actually made it even more emotional to me that I couldn't hear Dumbo speak as a character. And it was all through his eyes and the way that he would cry and moan. And, you know, when he gets separated from his mother, I mean, it is heartbreaking. And every time in this film, when Dumbo would take flight and fly around and just whip around the circus, it was such a rousing kind of emotional moment. And I thought, like, it was just really fun and enjoyable. Danny DeVito was so good, so entertaining as the kind of ringmaster of the circus. Colin Farrell was really good and had a really interesting character arc of this guy who had come back from the war. He's lost his wife, he's lost his arm, he's lost his position in the circus as the star player. The 2 kids were really good, and the young girl, I thought, it looks like they've just, like, taken some DNA from Tandy Newton and just made this young girl. And then I realized it was actually Tandy Newton's daughter. She just looked like her, but shrunk down to, like, you know, 9, 10, 11 years old. She was really good. And the special effects are really well done. And Michael Keaton, my favourite actor, was great to see him. You know, he's very much chewing the scenery a bit with his villainous character, but I really enjoyed him in the film. And yeah, just all around, really, really entertaining. Not one I'd say to people, you have to go and see this. Again, it wasn't particularly great, but I really, really enjoyed it and had a bit of a bad experience. Behind me in the row was a woman with her young child, either a young boy or a young girl, who I later saw was about 1 or 2 years old, just started crying and screaming and screeching and moaning and kicking up a fuss for about 15 minutes. So the whole section where Dumbo is born and then, you know, is ostracized by the circus for being a freak, I kind of didn't really get a read or a hold on any of that, because right behind me there's a kid just going nuts. And all I heard from the mother was very quietly, just keep watching. And people came over to her and kind of complained, like, you're kind of disturbing everyone here, you know. And she refused to leave or anything, and eventually the staff had to come in and ask this woman to leave. I'm assuming that's what happened. I don't know why else the staff would come into the screening room over to where she was sat and then walk out with her. And as she was leaving, I saw that it was 1 or 2 years old, and I'm just like, dude, read the room. And your kid. Like, you know, maybe he wasn't ready for it yet. Maybe she wasn't ready for it yet. You know, if you're taking a really young kid into the cinema, I would say you have to be prepared for the likelihood that the kid will not enjoy itself, and you know, you'll have to leave. But it seemed like she didn't want to leave, and so that was really frustrating, but it was what it was. Then afterwards, me and Connie went to see Hellboy with David Harbour. We didn't like it very much. It is getting terrible reviews, and I still hate this Rotten Tomatoes culture of, well, it is literally Rotten Tomatoes going, guys, it's official, tweeting out, Hellboy is #rotten. And it's just like, do we need to be doing that? I don't know. It's like, yeah, 15 people have seen this film and they think it isn't good, so it's rotten and you shouldn't see it. I don't know. I would say the same with the opposite. Where guys, it's 100%. This is a perfect film. I think it's unrealistic, and I just think that those kinds of like early announcements by Rotten Tomatoes that hey, this is shit. Hey, this is the best thing since Godfather Part Two. I don't know. Not a big fan of it, but it wasn't very good. I wouldn't say it's bad or terrible. It was just like woefully passable. Bits that were just kind of rushed, and I'm not going to say messy, but just it felt like it was trying too hard. It felt like they'd written the script, got the stories together and everything like that, and then they handed the script over to a teenager and said, "What would you change about this?" And the teenager's like, "Oh, fuck, 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 fuck." Every character says fuck all the fucking time. And it just felt so forced and unnatural. And there's a Korean actor, a Korean American actor in the film who does an English accent. And it was just so strange, and it threw me, and it almost looked like he was being dubbed. And there's a bit where he says a very English phrase where he's like, "I'll be fucked." And it just sounded so forced that his character just, I couldn't get into it because it just seemed off to me. The gore was just way over the top. It just seemed like how gory can we get it? Ripping people's faces off, splitting the legs open, guts coming out. And, someone gets thrown over something and they, it's just like way over the top, and maybe they were just going for like the darker. Apparently they wanted to do this once Deadpool became successful, and I'm not the biggest fan of Deadpool, but Deadpool found its tone and kind of stayed within it. And well, actually, I will say that Deadpool actually to me feels very forced at times too, but this was forced in a way that I didn't even find funny occasionally. There were a couple of funny moments in the film, and there's this big demon monster, this big kind of warthog-looking humanoid creature that has a has a Scouse accent, which was fucking hilarious. He's like, "I'm gonna bash your fucking head." I love that. I thought that was hilarious. So again, not irredeemable, but I thought it was just okay, and kind of, I wouldn't say it's disappointing because I wasn't expecting much to begin with. After that, we went to see Pet Sematary, the remake of the earlier film from the 80s, I think, which is also based on the Stephen King novel. A lot of controversy about this film because there was a big spoiler in the trailer, so I avoided that. And the whole film I was waiting for like this big twist, which never really came. But it's because they kind of changed the fate of the characters from the book and the previous film in the new film. They swapped around some of the things. So to me, I had no knowledge of those previous stories, so it didn't really mean too much to me as far as, oh my god, they changed the book or they changed the other film. I thought this was fantastic, and I was surprised to kind of hear that most of the people I know who've seen it didn't like it very much. Some people hated it. It hasn't gotten very good reviews. I thought it was great. I loved it. And I'm not a big horror guy, but I think as far as recent horror films, this one really nailed it for me. It had some good suspense. Yeah, it goes to those trappings of the jump scares and everything, and the typical tropes you see in modern horror films, which maybe it could have done without. But it is really anchored by a handful of incredible performances. Jason Clarke, I think, is really underrated. Again, surprised to see people shitting over his performance and saying he's one of the worst working actors today. I think the opposite. I think that he's great. I love him in everything I see him in. Wish he was in more, and he really did a good job. I forget the actress's name. She was in Alien Covenant. I thought she was great in that, and apparently that performance in Alien Covenant got her cast in this film, and I thought, yeah, I can see that. She is brilliant, and is almost acting better than the movie is. She's just a phenomenal actress, and she really drives the realistic emotions. The things that happen in this film are very outlandish, and she reacts to them so realistically that I just bought the whole situation, even though these kind of larger than life things are happening. She sold it so fucking well. John Lithgow, one of my all-time favorite actors, just steals the show. He's just so effortlessly brilliant, has such a presence to him, and I loved him in this film. And the young actress who plays Ellie was really, really good. She has a few different things to do in the film. I think she handled both pretty well. Not a standout, blow-away child actor performance by any means, but she was very, very good. But I just loved the spooky, eerie nature of this story. It really did feel like a Stephen King story. And it goes to an ending that I think, without spoiling anything, is very much one of those downer endings where it isn't quite the happy ending you might expect, and I usually don't like that too much, but I really bought it, because there's a little moment at the very end of the film. Maybe I'll do a tiny spoiler section, because I know a lot of people have already seen it. But it sold me, and I think that it really drove the film home in a way that I thought was really satisfying, which a lot of people might not agree with. But anyway, so I managed to do that in about 10 minutes. I'm really happy with that. So that was the remake marathon in the cinema. Maybe I can do this more and kind of lump in some films and not kind of just drag it out with like 10-15 minute reviews of each film. But yeah, let me know. Maybe if that's kind of a better way for me to do it, perhaps, is to do more of a wrap-up as I watch more films in the cinema than doing one for each film. I don't know. You can be the judge of that. Anyway, so that was the remake marathon, kind of. Not really a marathon, but you know, the remake triple bill. It was quite fun in the cinema. So, thank you for watching, and I'll now do a brief spoiler talk about Pet Sematary. So, if you're still here, then I can assume you've seen the 2019 Pet Sematary. So, you know, the young girl dies, comes back, and then the mother gets killed. She comes back, kills the father, and then we have that final shot of the young boy in the car waiting for his family who come back. They're all reanimated from the dead, and as they're walking towards the car, you're like, they're gonna kill their son. This is so dark and horrible. And then the cat just jumps up onto the bonnet, and it's like this kind of undead family, and the cat just tied it all around, where to me it was like a wink. It was like, you know, it was almost just infusing just a teeny amount of humour into a film that has none, really, in a way that I just think, you know, yeah, that kid's gonna die, but, you know, it's a movie. I don't know, I just think it really worked, and I read afterwards, the director was saying that, and I just feel like what he was going for, or they were going for, I think there's two directors, for me really landed. Because it was kind of this it let you off the hook, like, hey, it's a movie, you know. Here's the cat, the undead family, you know, and they're not going to show the the boy getting killed and brought back to life, or whatever they're going to do with him. Because the opening of the film has like a bloody handprint on the car, so I can assume that the kid kind of, you know, bites the dust. But yeah, I bought into it, and apparently they filmed a couple of endings, and the other endings were just like really dour, really downbeat. This one had a little bit of levity to it, I suppose, and I think it really worked. So I actually thought the film was fantastic, and that is it. So thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts down below on any of the films I talked about, and I'll see you in the next one.
He's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.